Welcome everybody. So today I will be showing you, I did have to make a change in the actual engine itself instead of just working on the game to support alpha for my leaves and shrubbery. So I will show you guys that. And then, hold on a minute, let me mute myself. So I had to make a change on the engine last week in order to support alpha for the shrubbery, and I'll walk you guys through that, and then the rest of the stream will be going back to doing some more level design. So let me open up Substance Painter here and show you, for those that don't know what I'm talking about when I say alpha. Give you a little lesson. It's pretty interesting stuff. Not Photoshop. The other Adobe product. And for those new to the stream, my husband and I are working on making our first commercial game in a game engine that we've been working on in C++ for the last 6 or so years. And last couple of streams I've been working on level design, and I'll probably be carrying on with that. I'm getting pretty close to done-ish with this level, or at least I might call it here for now in the next week or so. Then go back to work on some other stuff, but all right, so if you see, these are the branches that I have in the game. If you look, it looks like there's a mesh, that there's geometry here for each of the individual leaves, but there actually isn't. So if you look at the base color, the geometry is a rectangle. Maybe there's, I think 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's probably 6 quads in every one of these little branches here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And I wasn't sure, I think I called this out last stream, but I wasn't sure if I actually had alpha support in the shader for my primary material pass. So I knew I had alpha support in my particle pass, but I did not know if we had actually set it up for the primary shader, which is what would be used to render these materials. We have like a mesh renderer shader. You can think of it that way. So when I actually ported these into the game, it just looked like big rectangles. You could hardly see the green. So in order to get an appearance like this, I had to go into the engine, and I'll show you that PR now. It wasn't very hard at all. It was pretty minor. And then while I was in here, I also did some touch up on the shadows. I don't think I've done a single change in the engine in the last year that I haven't also gone and redone some of the shadow mapping. But okay, so really all I have to do to get alpha support is this little block of code right here. So if you're really new to colors and game asset creation, you might not know that generally a texture will have 4 channels: red, green, blue, and alpha. At least the textures that you're generally going to work with will have red, green, blue, and alpha channels. And alpha is how opaque something is. So if you look here, we can go to the opacity channel, and you can see black is 0, not opaque at all, and white is 1, fully opaque. So I've written this black and white texture to the, or color data, to the alpha channel of my texture. Then the RGBA channels are this, is the leaf texture here. So then when my shader, when my shader comes in here and it says it's looking at the color texture, the diffuse texture, and I can show you that map here. So you can't actually see the opacity channel that I was showing you before, but it's in, that's because this renderer here doesn't show opacity as black and white. Typically most won't, but the alpha channel is here, and anything that is not, that has a color has an alpha of 1, and anything that does not have a color has an alpha of 0. So then when we're actually sampling this texture, we say if the alpha is less than 0.1, which is just a threshold over 0, then we're going to discard, which means do not render this pixel. And that's essentially all we had to do. One neat thing to get my outlines, because I'll show you in the game here in a minute, but we have an outline that renders over each leaf. Normally it's going to detect the mesh, so it's going to render an outline around the rectangle. And to fix that, all I have to do is I use a normal pass to generate part of my outline. All I have to do is the same exact thing here, sample the color texture and say if my alpha is less than 0.1, discard it. And what that means is that this is all before I do the normal edge detection. It's now going to do edge detection around the anything that has an alpha value over 0.1. So that was pretty cool. And then the rest of this was just me testing stuff out and then fixing shadows. And then I also did, I added alpha blending here in the, oh yeah, I can talk about this. So I added a property called alpha blend to my pass description. So any of my shaders have their own desk that I can set up when I define them, and I added alpha blend as a property. So if alpha blend is true, then we have just these default alpha blending properties. This is already true in my particle pass, and then I just added the same thing to my material pass. So as a note, I don't need this in order to discard the alpha pixel like I do earlier, but this will add, this allows for transparency and alpha blending itself, which I'm not actually making use of right now. So then this is the place where we're actually calling, we're defining all of the different passes we have in the game engine for the material. You can see that I pass alpha blend here where it's needed. So that was what I did on the engine. And I'm really pleased because I'm going for a very specific toon looking effect, and I'm really getting happy with it. So I'll show you. I don't think I had anything in the game. I think maybe I just had the tree in place on my last stream. I don't actually remember. But I'm really happy with how this is turning out. So we have our cliff, and this has a toon outline, and then I use the normals, if you remember me talking about rendering a really high poly mesh, and then I bake that into the world space normals map. So then I use that, my shader can then pick up the world space normals. And so this mesh itself is actually very, very low poly. It just has a high texture, or a high res texture for world space normals, and that's what my shader picks up on for lighting. But I'm very happy with it because I'm going for like a almost comic booky effect, so their ink is very dramatic. And there we have it. Oh, Mika, that's very smart. Hey, Mika, by the way, welcome back. Mika says you can pick a threshold randomly and it'll be dithered transparency. That's super smart. Of course it would. That's super cool. So today I'm going to be carrying on with, and actually I'll show you what my vision board is here for this. Golur? I don't know if I'm saying your name right. I'm going to call you Golur. Golur says nice. Thank you, Golur. So the vision board is, and I actually haven't done this yet, so this is a good exercise, but I'm thinking I'm going to have a kind of a grassy hill that kind of wraps down here like this. And it's going to come up like this. The tree's going to be wrapped around it, coming off like this. Then I'm going to have some more tree roots coming down like this. And then lots and lots of pine trees, some here as well. Then peeking out over here, I'm going to have some more cliffs and mountains. Then right about here, I'm going to put the castle. And then right about here, I'm going to be putting the moon. And then oh, of course. So if you want a comic book effect, actually, Mika, that is incredibly helpful because I was wondering how I wanted to do, let me see if I can actually show you here. If I make a new, oh, this is a screenshot. If I make a new scene here, and then I just add a plane, you'll see that, rotate you. Oops. This way. So, there. Okay. Oops. Why can't it? Oh. I had some kind of strange bug where I could not. Oh. Oh, I think my that's funny. I think the back end here is grabbing focus, and it's grabbing focus on top of my new scene. But anyway, what I want to show you, Mika, is the wonkiness I have with my shadows here. Oh, it totally is. That's funny. Let's see. Oops. I think I actually introduced a bug yet again with my point light shadows, just in my most recent change here, but I can show you with directional lights. Oh. So my, okay, let me just add a directional light here. This is, make it red. Okay, if we okay, this is actually not worth my time to do at the moment because my so it's essentially like a message pump. We have a hook going on in the back end to do like draw a card. Now it's the player turn, tick the phase, and that's interrupting my HUD. But what I was trying to say, Mika, is I have a really wonky, with my toon shader on, my shadows are only ever on or off. They're not like a nice gradient in most cases. And I was trying to figure out how to make it like a nice dithered effect, and that's exactly how I can do it. Yeah, post them on Discord, that'd be awesome. Thank you. I haven't gotten into dithering at all, and it can be exactly what I need for this look for the shadows here. Okay, let's go back to my mock-up here, because I know I'm going to want some trees. And I want the forest to kind of extend out here a little bit. This will all be up close. Then we're gonna have a castle and a night sky. And then this will be the entrance to the dungeon. And I want a couple big rocks here. Here. Okay, I'm gonna put this in my reference board here. Mika, I was watching your stream and I'm gonna keep watching, it's very interesting. But I really like how you have like a, I don't know how long it took you to do this, but you have seemingly everything you have to do for the game in items and stories, or user stories, however you want to call them. But then you have a progress. That's so cool. Colera said, I solved all my shadow issues by making them artist authored and telling them it's their problem now. What a great idea. Unless you're also the artist and you're just toast. Okay, so now I've got my mock-up and my pure ref board. There. If you guys don't know about pure ref, I highly recommend it. It's free, or it's a pay what you will. But it's just a really nice reference board for artists. You can copy and paste images and resize them in a nice way. It's very easy to use. But Mika, it's very, very aesthetically pleasing how you have the progress graph that you show at the beginning of your stream. I want to do that. I just don't know if I'll ever take the time. Okay. So what I was doing, I was starting to mock this out. You can see my workflow here. I found out about the multi-res modifier and I talked about that last stream, but that's been an absolute game changer. Okay, so I'm thinking I want to have some grassy patches and rocky patches here. So I'm going to crease. Not quite that way. Oh, it seems very, very thorough, and it was just so nice to look at, Mika. Do I have a release timeline for the game? Hi, Corey Bond Studios. Welcome to the stream. I don't think I've ever seen you on here before. No, not really. It'd be very nice to get it done in 2027, but that seems optimistic. Extremely optimistic. My husband's been working on the back end and he's been doing the coding lately, which is very helpful. When I'm not working on the environment before this, I was working on like the UI, I guess you could say, the front end, the actual just interface, but he's working on trying to solve the condition resolver, because this is going to be a deck builder game, and so the cards will have conditions, and I really should just do reading on how other people have tackled that problem, because there are so many things to consider there. But long story short, he's been working on that for about a month, which is fantastic, because then I don't have to do it. He's going to do a better job at it than I probably would have. And if we can get that problem solved, we already have networking set up, and he did that too. Then I think we can have a fair shot at having a playable demo with not completed assets by middle or end of next year. And I bet we could finish the game in like early 2028. That's TBD. Right now, each of us have about an hour a day to put forth to it, maybe 2 hours. And then on the weekends, we have a 3-year-old, so we take turns, and I get a little bit more time. But yeah, hoping against hope to finish in 2027, but very likely it will be 2028. And we, as far as like actually tracking, I'll show you here. We have issues that we use pretty religiously. I've played around with the project board, but I just don't find myself actually using this because there's only 2 people and we're married. So we can just verbally say, hey, I got this done today. I'm gonna work on this. Mika's saying, I would love to wing game development, but since you're committing to 2 years, you have to make a to-do list. You have to make a to-do list. I agree. For me, at some point, I start hating the game, and the to-do list helps me finish it. Yeah, I've had moments like that as well. I think what really helped me this time around, and we'll see because I haven't finished the game yet, and maybe I'll eat my words, but I spent a good deal of time, instead of doing a to-do list, I made a game design document and went really, really in depth. So this is kind of my to-do list. So we've got sequences, all the details, all the UI mockups for the individual screens, what each phase will look like to the finest detail, systems. This is more or less my to-do list, but I think it would be really nice to have like a, okay, I'm going to slide this user story over and this one into, and for like a Kanban style board would be nice. I just don't want to do it. So Cory Bond Studios, what are you working on? And oh, hi Monsi, welcome back. Golir says the GitHub project tools are pretty terrible. I feel like, especially, I agree. You can't change the date of things easily and link them. Got to do everything manually. I agree. I have completed 95% of my to-do list. I agree. And you know, this is one thing. I'm not going to do it because now I'm doing this out of principle now, or like I'm taking a stand, but that would be a really good use for ChatGPT or an AI tool. It's gonna make me user stories for my to-do list here. But if I can make the entire game with no AI, then I will. I wonder if that'll even be relevant by the time I get done. Who knows? Will we even have computers to play games with by the time I get done? Okay, so I want to make kind of a ledge here and like a grassy knoll, and I want it to be kind of crumbling. It was really fun working on the engine again. We were talking about this last stream, but the coolest part about being an indie is that you can, if you get bored of coding, you can work on Blender, and if you get bored of Blender, then you can go back to coding, and if you get bored of all of that, you can do some texturing or make your own materials. And there's always something you can do that's creative and fun if you get bored of one thing. I'm very interested in how people approach GDD. Can you share your GDD? I totally understand if you do not want to share. Yeah, I will send it to you on Discord, Mika. I would appreciate it if you don't share it with others, but yeah, I will send it to you. Absolutely. And then how I approached it, I just Googled GDD template, and then I saw that it was broken down by like overview, and this was with high level, and then elevator pitch, and then what are your systems going to be? What is the actual gameplay loop going to be? And then you start high level, then you go break down into more detail. So that was one thing I did. I, like in a fever dream, iterated on this son of a bitch until like every possible detail was captured. I'm sure there are things that I haven't captured yet. For example, I don't have all of the cards defined yet, but how the cards interact, I do have. Corey working on a 2D tower defense kind of dark fantasy theme. Oh my gosh, I would love to see anything you have so far. Raf says, hello, how's the game dev progress so far? It's going pretty darn well. I am thrilled, absolutely thrilled, you guys, because I want to show you. There's so many Pinterest boards. I'm going to show you one of my Pinterest boards. But there's a very specific dark fantasy look that I'm trying to capture. Let's see if I can find a good one here. And I do believe I have done it. Hold on a minute. I'm using my phone as my camera, and the way it's positioned, it's blocking exactly the part of the screen where I can see my back button, which is why I have to crane around if I want to see it. But I'm trying to find a good example of the look that I'm going for here. So I want to be able to do this. And by George, I've done it, you guys. I only have a couple assets in there so far, but I've captured exactly how to make this, like, I can make it saturated if I need to. It's not quite photorealistic. It's a little bit flattened. It has high emphasis on black. And I'm really excited about it. So now I just have to carry on and make more assets. I know, it looks so nice. I agree. So I'm going to iterate and iterate and iterate until, because the shader can do it now. And I'm just going to iterate and iterate until I can get exactly the same, like, gut punch feeling that you see in those shaders, or in those Pinterest pictures here. Because I can get it. I just have to keep iterating and figure out exactly what is it. Color, is it, because I know it's black and the stark outlines of the contrast is there, but there's something more to it, maybe a vibrancy. I know that, like, the having multiple layers, like parallaxing layers, is key. So that's why there's my pure Pinterest board here. So for those, I'm going to make kind of a sloping hill with a pine forest here that kind of wraps around my tree, and then a layer of mountains in the back, and then behind that a layer of a castle. So this will be my entrance scene, the first thing you see when you play the game. And so it has to pop off. Thank you. Here. Go. One minute here. Yeah, I will figure out how to send that to you here after the stream. Uncle Lear says, "Are you an artist by trade? It's been really hard for me as a non-artist to work backward from concept art and try to capture the feel the artists go for." No, um, no, I've always wanted to be a concept artist for video games. That was been my dream for a really long time. And so that I wanted to go to art school and then decided when it came down to it to chicken out and go for computer science instead because I would need that if I wanted to make my own games. So I went to school for computer science and that's my trade. But I've been self-taught and surprisingly learning, or not surprisingly, but a lot of what I've been learning comes from streaming and people being like, "Oh, hey, did you know that there's this cool thing?" Or um, just streaming and watching YouTube videos. But I have this like the entire reason I'm making this game is because it feels really, really good to try to iterate and get really close to those dark fantasy Pinterest pictures. That is like goal number one. I don't think I'm very knowledgeable on asset creation. I do a lot of things like the old-fashioned way or in a clunky way, but I know that I have a keen enough eye and I'm like honest enough with myself that and I'm stubborn enough to continue to iterate until I have exactly the look that I want, which is a great feeling. Be grateful you didn't go to art school. I would have loved it. Sometimes I feel grateful that I mean a lot of times I feel grateful that I didn't go because my job pays really well, but a lot of the times too I feel like it would have been really cool just to YOLO and trust my heart and go for what I wanted to do. It's not that I didn't want to code. I love coding, but I it would have been a more me thing to have gone to art school. Although I can't say that I would do it again. I would do it a different way if I could because I'm very happy with where I am right now. I've somehow found myself with um a loose ability to do everything I need to in a game, and then a husband that can do the things that I can't do. But Cory Bond, I would love to see if you have any final art, the kind of vibe you're going for, because I'm really curious by what other people are doing in the dark fantasy genre. Okay, so I'm gonna smooth out that. Oh, and I should warn you all, if my stream suddenly stops, I am oh, we were talking about this last stream. I have been keeping a track of my temperature now, and sometimes it goes into the 90s, and when it does, I think the temperature is what's causing my whole computer to shut down. It should be throttling, but my motherboard is absolutely fucked. So I'm getting a new motherboard in the mail here in the next week or two, but at least 10 times in the last week, my computer has just shut down, and it's always when I'm working in Blender or Substance Painter, or I have Blender, Substance Painter, and Photoshop all open at the same time. I have so many ideas too, Mika. I'll if you could give me one thing in the whole world, it would be, hey, here's just I don't even need much. I need 4 hours. Here's 4 hours a day for me to make games. I would be the happiest person on the planet if I just had 4 hours every day. One day I will. Uh Danny J, hope I'm saying your name right, welcome to the stream, says, being a dev gives you enough profit for a living? No, I have not made any money. Actually, that is not true. I picked up a gig one time doing like the AI code reviews for, like, you get paid to do the human review of AI generated code. I did that for a little while using the engine. So I can't say I didn't make any money off the engine, but I don't make any money from games. I never have. And I have a full-time day job as a SaaS developer. Mega Zombie Penguin, what library are you using to load the 3D objects? Welcome to the stream, by the way. I am using ASIMP, and then we have our own converter that wraps ASIMP, and it puts things in the shape that we want them to, and then we wrap that in the NCA format. It's our custom format. Mika, I have a large house fan and an air conditioner like 6 feet away from my computer. I probably should just move it a little bit, but I really should. My dream Gorlier's game is to get an artist baby mama so I can save on the art budget. You should, in shy of that, if you can't find an artist baby mama, go to colleges and try to like offer people very like small amounts of money that would mean a lot of money to a college freshman to do their art for you. Because I remember I was thrilled in college to make $12 an hour working extremely hard as a software intern. But it was like a 2-year-long software internship, so it wasn't like a we don't expect the intern to do anything kind of internship. It was like I've been working at this company for 2 years, and at the beginning, sure, I didn't do anything, but towards the end, I was doing stuff. And I never was paid more than $12 an hour. I'm not saying that you should extort college students, but I think there's a happy medium to be found. Okay, I'm trying to make this part rocky, and I'm not exactly sure the best way to go about doing it here. It doesn't look natural. But I'm hoping I only have to make, I think it's six total scenes, so it's really not too bad. And the nice thing about the game that I'm making here is that you don't get free motion. The user does not get to move freely. They're stuck in one place, a la Slay the Spire. And that makes it a lot easier for asset creation. So I just have to make the scene in which, like this one, I just have to make this look really, really good. And they can look, oops, is it shift tilde? They'll be able to pan the camera around, but they won't be able to move. So that's going to make it a lot easier on me and more realistic to get done with one person. I am so my plan here, once I get the scene just like really, really screaming and looking really good, my husband made the coolest dungeon synth song. It's so good. I cannot wait to show it to you guys. But I'm going to make a little TikTok video and try to bring the dark fantasy trend back for marketing. And I should probably have a Steam page by that time, but I don't actually even have a formal title for the game yet. My working title is Oath of Umbra, but that doesn't mean anything. It's just, it sounded dark fantasy, so that's what I picked. But I have been doing some research into how to bring intentionality into world building, because I've never been a writer and I've never tried to write my own game story before. And while I don't like strictly need one for a game that is just a multiplayer deck builder, I want to have one. I think people can immediately see when a lot of thought has been put into something, and they can see when it has not. But that's brand new to me, is trying to create an intentional world. So if you guys have any good resources on world building, please send them my way. I've been trolling YouTube and it's been helpful, but there's like one banger resource, send it my way. Corey Bond says I've got an old school isometric. Oh, cool. Old school isometric style going on. Blender 3D to 2D assets. I find one of the biggest art challenges is keeping the general feeling cohesive. Is that something you've encountered? Yes, it absolutely is. Especially, so it's nice because with the shader, all you really have to do is make the shape, and then the shader does all the cohesion for you. Because these are the actual assets that are imported into the game. This is the tree, that's the wall, and this is the cliff. And all 100% of what you see, the textures are nothing special. They're really basic. And then like the shader just works on tying things together visually in a serious way so that I don't have to do it. But when it comes to like even mocking up the UI, that was so hard. All I did was troll Pinterest to grab different elements and slap them together, and that was very hard to get a cohesive look. So I can't answer that because I haven't gotten far enough into making enough assets to see if there hasn't been a chance for things not to be cohesive yet. And Gladwell says, will there be mana? No, there will not be mana. So, in this disclaimer, every time I show this image, this is not my work. This is liberally grabbed from Pinterest, and like I put Photoshop filters on it and stretched it and grabbed it, but like I didn't make these stones at all, or this hand or any of it. I just grabbed it on Pinterest to get a high fidelity mock-up so that I know when I'm building up the UI what I want exactly, like what the buttons will be and what they'll look like. But Galandable, to your question, there won't be mana. You can the wizard class, the way that that's going to work, the limiting factor is driven by weapons. So any of the three classes can have various weapons, and you get a chance to equip your weapon at the beginning of your player turn. And the weapons will be there'll be one of two types. There'll be channeling weapons like staffs, rings, wands, etc. Or they will be martial weapons like swords, clubs, axes. And then the stones you get here, for example, cast Fireball 1, when that gets rolled, it'll fizzle unless you are currently equipping a channeling weapon. And then the Fireball 1 will do, let's see how that's going to work. So the channeling weapons themselves don't have any base damage. And so when you cast Fireball, it's going to be the thing with the damage. So it'll do like 2 damage plus 1 burning, but requires a channeling weapon to be equipped. So that's the constraint here, because if you fill up your skill library with a bunch of stones that require a channeling weapon, then you really don't want to get other stones that require martial weapons, because what are the odds you're going to draw into it? That's how that works. Muncie says, world building, just read The Hobbit. The Hobbit is so good. Have you guys read 9 Princes in Amber? I'm doing a second reread. I haven't read the whole series, but I'm doing a second reread like at this exact moment. Hold on. today, right before I started the stream. I was reading it again. Holy cow, that is a good book. It is so underrated. Talk about world building. That's an incredible world. It's very inspiring for dark fantasy, because I'm also going, I don't know how to do this yet, but I really want magical realism to come across here, and that's going to be hard in like a dark fantasy, high fantasy setting to get the realism part of it, but there is a certain feeling that gets evoked with magical realism, and I'm doing some research to try to figure out how to tap that into that. But The Hobbit is also very good. Oh, Glenville says world building is not something you deliberately do, but instead something that happens naturally when you keep notes and have a rule set for your world. That is very interesting that you say that, Glenville. There is a book called, I wonder if you've read it now just based on what you said. The Timeless Way of Building. Glenville, have you read this book, The Timeless Way of Building, by Christopher Alexander? Yeah, Roger Zelazny. So The Timeless Way of Building is a book about architecture, but it's actually a book about quality and how to build things of quality. And what he says in that book, which I totally agree with, is if you set out to try to build something of quality, you're not going to be able to do it. Instead, you have to first build the rules and observe the, like, it's hard to explain, but build yourself a system of rules and then use those rules to generate something, and only then will it be quality. And there's a subtle difference, but it's an important one, and I feel like that's exactly what you just said. Glenn, so are you guys taking contributors, or only the dynamic duo is allowed to touch it? For the engine, we are always taking contributors. We have a lot of crap in there. In fact, I think I just introduced a Shadows bug recently, but yeah, no guarantees of timely merge request reviews or support, but yeah, we're always looking for, if you want to, you're welcome to it. That'd be appreciated. But we're not, like, full disclosure, not working on the engine right now unless we need to. So you'll probably be disappointed by the lack of engagement at the current moment. And not looking for contributors on the game at the moment. No, if that's what you were asking. And Mega Zombie Penguin says you might use auto remesher. It will help to fix the topology of the 3D mesh and could help out in the engine too. I just bought that. I might have just bought that thing. What did I buy? I think it's called Quad Remesher. Yeah, Quad Remesher. This is the coolest tool I think I've ever used for Blender. Highly recommend it. Okay, so that's probably enough fiddling around with rocks here. Let's get that. Okay. And then I want it to kind of gradually spill out into the ground, like my paint mock-up. Where's grab? Here it is. But yeah, Glendale, I feel like you might be underwhelmed at if you were to collaborate on the engine at the moment, because we're really not taking any time to maintain it at the moment. It's alive, and I mean, I just made an MR on it yesterday for alpha support, but it's not something either of us have time for. We're all gung-ho about the game at the moment. But eventually, if I ever have more than 1 hour a day to work towards my hobbies, we'll be back adding things to it. There's so many things that need to be done. Our current instance of the renderer is not very efficient, and I'm afraid to touch it because it's like the perfect. It has exactly what I need for the exact shader, but some of it doesn't even make sense functionally. Like the way that I've done my normals doesn't make any sense, but I don't want to touch it because I don't want it to break because it's perfect. But we also, one of the things I want to do there is get deferred rendering going, because it's an immediate mode render, or an immediate renderer, or forward renderer, I think is the term. And it's very inefficient, and we render the scene geometry so many times. There's lots of stuff that could be improved there. So what I'm doing here, I learned this from Grant Abbott, but you can go get displacement maps from CG, from anywhere really, but I go to Ambient CG to get them. And then you can put them in brushes. And then you can paint on texture. So I'm doing that here to get some nice texture for the rocks. Glenville says free the software and free the pointer. Yeah. I love that. And Mega Zombie Penguin are using OpenGL or Vulkan. I'm using Vulkan, although the answer to that question is technically yes, because I'm using the Diligent engine, which is a kind of an API all its own, but it is an abstraction layer over whichever API you want. So you can do OpenGL or DirectX 11 or 12 or Vulkan, and we just only have it set up to build for Vulkan at the moment. Just due to familiarity, and there's a couple, we've done a couple Vulkan specific things now. There are a few places where you have to expose raw Vulkan to do what you want. And so I've done that. I don't know what doing Dyn Topo is going to do with the multi-res modifier, but this geometry down here is not correct. So I'm going to just try it. Okay, generative modifiers detected. Yeah, I don't. Just don't know what that's going to do. Let's just try this. Let's try over at 3 million. That's kind of a lot. Okay, we're going to save. I'm going to try to subdivide here. And if I lose stream, thank y'all for watching. Hey, it survived. So Mika, have you read Nine Princes in Amber? I'm assuming you have based on your comment, but oh my god, there's something about it. It's so magical. It makes me feel such a strange way reading it. I wonder if this will even help if I do this. Uh-oh. Oh no, that was the wrong choice. Okay, let's make sure that I applied object scaling. Okay. Yeah. This is not exactly right here. Geometry is super stretched out here. But I'm worried that if I do a remeasure, it's going to screw things up because I have the multi-res modifier on here. Okay, so we have, I think this should be fine. I think I can get some pretty good results here if I think this will look fine because I'm going to add trees here and then add bushes and grass, and at the text tree phase it'll all even out in a wash. Oh, okay. And so Nine Princes in Amber is the first book in the Amber. I think there are 10 Amber books by Zelazny, and I don't know any other books that he wrote, but they're very good. Wow. Okay, so Mega Zombie Penguin says I might be able to apply the modifiers first. I don't know how to apply the multi-res modifier because, so the cool thing about it is if I want to sculpt at 14 million faces, I can, as long as I have this modifier active. And then if I want to go and export of the low poly model, all I have to do is go into object mode and then bump the level viewport down to whatever polygon count I want and go into object mode and export it. But I don't know how to preserve that if I apply the modifier. So Mika, I have heard so many people recommend Robert Heinlein, and I just have never read Robert Heinlein. And he does Stranger in a Strange Land, right? And he's why everyone knows what grok means. Or he's the one that invented grok. But I've just never read any Heinlein, and people have always told me you have to read Heinlein. And I've heard of Harry Harrison, but I haven't read him either. But I've not heard of him as much as I've heard of Heinlein. Is Stranger in the Strange Land, is that the one that I should read? Oh, Glenville says I had a little weekend experiment where I used the O3D core code to make a novel writing text editor. Whoa. Yeah, I would love to see that. That'd be super cool. So what does it have for novels specifically over an ordinary text editor? Have spacesuit will travel. Thank you. I'll take a look. This Mega Zombie Penguin saying enter the modeling tab or mesh editing mode. Well, so I might be misunderstanding you. That's the worst part about streaming is the delay. But so if I do this, then I can control like my level viewport, and I could apply the modifier right now, but then I would lose the levels, I think. Wouldn't I lose the different levels of resolution? I'm afraid to try it. But after the stream, I will do some YouTube videoing to figure out how to combine the Dyn Topo and multi-res modifiers. My big fear is that I'll lose the low poly one if I apply modifiers. Okay, this is gonna be grass. Save first, yeah. My biggest fear isn't actually that I lose the modifier. It's that if I try to save and or reopen Blender or do some tomfoolery like applying the modifier, my entire computer is going to turn off. Which has happened so many times in the last couple of weeks. Okay, oh, actually, I should check my temperature. Yeah, okay, so max 91, current 72. That's not so bad. But if anyone's wanting to listen to an audiobook, Roger Zelazny himself narrates Nine Princes of Amber on YouTube. That should be enough. I might put some... Oh, that's going to be weird for it to be growing out the side like that. I like lighthearted Mika. I'm going to check it out. Although it might be a while if I can't find it at the library. Okay, so what a specific novel text editor would have tags, footnotes, LaTeX exporting and importing properties, and org mode renderer to see how your formatting would work. Oh, yeah, that makes sense. And automatic sorting and categorizing characters, POIs, etc. Oh, sweet. Yeah, I'd love to see that. I started playing around with Obsidian, but I never became an Obsidian power user. But it would be cool. I feel like people that use Vim are also Obsidian power users. Okay, that looks nice and grassy. So now, don't crash. I am not sure it's heat related and not power delivery. Markdown is inferior. I eat, sleep, and breathe Markdown, Glenn. Well, I don't even know what ORG is, but if it's better than what is ORG? If it's better than Markdown, I would be interested in seeing. The problem I have with Markdown is that different applications that I use Markdown in frequently don't have consistent Markdown styling rules. Like trying to Markdown in Slack is not the same thing as Markdown in Jira or Markdown in GitLab or GitHub. Okay. I also could not grok ORG. What's ORG? Now we're gonna have to go on a little field trip. ORG markup. Org mode is a mode for... Is this what it is? A mode for... It's an Emacs thing? Oh, glandable. You're showing off that you're an Emacs developer again. Is this what it is? No, I don't think that's what it is. Oh, I can't go to... So I have Cold Turkey, which is an app that I bought, and it is so useful. But I have blocked websites for myself, so when I'm like on my computer, I can choose to block like social media and scrolling apps, but I've also blocked Wikipedia because for a while when I didn't block Wikipedia and I was having a big big spiral of not being able to focus, I decided, like, because I had like Reddit and YouTube and everything else blocked, that I was going to entertain myself or avoid what I was supposed to be doing by doing like deep dives into Wikipedia, into people's lives on Wikipedia, and like learning everything about their families. Just insane the lengths one will go to avoid anything, which is why I can't view it right now because my blocker is on, so I can't access Wikipedia. Can you use org without Emacs? Okay, so we're gonna export in object mode here. Oh, tell me that I UV mapped already. Click. Oh, oh my god. Okay, no, I did. Okay, so we're going to export at that polygon count by going to object mode and taking the level viewport down to 2. And then I'm going to call this, oops, but I have to set the right settings when I export. Okay, so the settings I need to work with my engine are FBX unit scale, so I don't multiply things by 100. Z forward, Y up, and apply transforms, and then limit to selected objects. I haven't gotten into TikTok yet. The only thing I just actually got TikTok so that I can start looking at dark fantasy videos. But YouTube will get me forever. I'm very, very easily distracted by stuff. Okay, so now I'm gonna go back to object mode and then export FBX, same settings, and call this one Hills. Hi, Polly. I know it was. Yeah, I've never had, Mostly says 18 months ago, dark fantasy was a huge trend on TikTok. I had started this shader about 2 years ago, and I've never, with the intention of like doing something. I didn't have the word dark fantasy at the time, but and I wasn't ahead of the curve. I just had seen some dark fantasy Pinterest happen. People had started to do like the dark fantasy AI generated thing on Pinterest, and it really caught my eye. Um, so I'd started on the shader to try to emulate that, which is the same shader I'm using today. And then started toying around with the idea of a dark fantasy game, but knew it would take me 2 years plus to make it. And then I saw like the dark fantasy trend on TikTok, and then someone made like this AI generated thing on Twitter where it was like someone walking like this and looks just outstanding. And I had FOMO so bad. I almost wanted, I don't know, it was the worst FOMO I've ever felt in my life because I knew like the trend was going to be dead and gone for at least 2 or 3 years by the time I finished my game. But then I thought, well, what is it about the trend that people like, and why were people so entranced by it? And I have some theories that I've been playing around with, but I think it's I think it's like a retaliation against cynicism, and it's like a desire for sincerity is what that, and it's just like it's very visually appealing and also very eerie. But I think the deeper thing is that people are homesick for simpler times based on just the research I've been doing and how I feel, and um, what appeals to me personally about dark fantasy. All right, so I'm closing down Blender so that I don't crash my computer. Yeah, Glenn, I've never read Conan the Barbarian. I just watched Conan the Barbarian, the Arnie Schwartz one, and It could have been good, except that Arnie was in it, and it was just taking me out of the moment. It was making it very hard to have suspension of disbelief for that one. But I did watch Willow, which I thought was really good. Okay, so now you can see the texturing workflow. So I'm probably going to start at 2048, and I open up Substance Painter and create a new file. I've never played the Might and Magic series myself. Are they are they RTSs, or are they more like Baldur's Gate or Neverwinter Nights? Yeah, then I go to Bake Mesh Maps and I load up the high poly. And this is going to capture all that nice juicy geometry that we were just working on. Okay, so when you see the red, it means that the cage is not going to capture that geometry. Okay, so now I'm going to choose opacity and height. I don't know what bent normals are, but I like to check everything. Oh, okay. Mika read the Conan the Barbarian series in the hospital. And you read so much of the books towered next to my bed in the hospital? That's amazing. I will put them on my queue, if nothing else, but just to feel less like an outsider and more like a be in the in crowd, because Conan the Barbarian seems to be like the quintessential 80s dark fantasy work. Well, I shouldn't have closed Blender because I can't remember if I needed this hill to be there or not. Shoot. I don't know if 20. Oh, I can't go 4K. That's just not going to work. But that. Okay, this. I think I do have to open up Blender because that is not going to work. I would definitely not want to go 4K, so. Mega Zombie Penguin, I'm going to try your idea. May God have mercy on our souls. Okay, so we're going to go up to 8 in object mode. 8. We'll just see what happens. Okay, then we're going to apply. Okay, so we already have our low poly one, so we just need, in theory, we just need the high poly one. Oh, but I don't know why I didn't go all the way through. Probably should have. But what I'm trying to do is get the geometry to stretch as little as possible so that I can cover this all in one 2K map. No. Well, I'm afraid I have to be done for the night because it's 9, but I will try to stream this weekend. I'm just trying to get into a consistent twice a week and having trouble with that. I lost internet all of Tuesday and part of Wednesday. But my goal for the weekend is going to be to get all of the big pieces of the geometry done here for the scene. But I will try to stream Sunday, I think. Anyway, thank you as always for joining, everybody. It's really fun getting to know everyone and hanging out. I will see you all very soon.